We reached the back half of Season 2 with episodes 6 to 10. The first half of the season struggled a bit compared to where it had finished Season 1 at, but it was starting to get its groove back again. To reiterate one final time, the scores are relative to the series, meaning that every episode is compared to each other to determine how quote-unquote good they are, meaning that for every one that's above average, there has to be one below average. The good news, though, is that we've gotten the only 1 and both 2s out of the way already, and we haven't gotten either of the 9s or the 10s, so that should hint at the trend for the series. With growth like that, I gotta say, Lower Decks has nothing to fear for the future.
I love being alive.
The Packlids have become the background menace of Lower Decks, but the Cerritos hasn't directly dealt with them since the Season 1 finale. Well, that's about to change with Episode 6, The Spy Humongous.
I just wish I knew what information you kept secret so I could know how amazing you are.
I didn't tell you anything about our big plan to smuggle a Veruvian bomb onto Earth.
Captain Freeman and Shax are beaming down to the Packlids' planet called Packlid Planet. The diplomat is pleased to meet Captain Janeway, except his helmet isn't big enough to allow for a negotiation for a ceasefire. Things are complicated because a Packlid prisoner escaped to the Cerritos and wants asylum, and this outrages the Packlid leadership. Except Commander Ransom and Lieutenant Kayshawn quickly piece together that he's a spy. It's subtle, but taking a surreptitious snapshot of his own foot gives it away. They figure they can use him to feed false information. Instead, despite being the first officer and co-chief of security respectively, they manage to lose track of a giant idiot dressed in their own swag. They begin a ship-wide search, but it's inexplicable. He's so well hidden, it's like he's not even on the ship anymore. No idea what he's getting up to. On the planet, every person they try to negotiate with requires someone with a bigger helmet, until finally the Emperor arrives, only to get killed by rebels. The Lower Deckers have their own problems. Tendi, Mariner, and Rutherford are on anomaly duty, hazardous waste collection, except you don't know what the hazards are. Boimler's not in on this because his plot is being absorbed into a clique of ensigns that are all strategizing on ranking up. They start working on his look so that he has the captainly bearing, and learning how to properly spread the Starfleet gospel. He channels his inner Riker to impress them, while his friends are having a rotten time with all the anomalies effing them up, a parade of body horror, weird encounters, and being eaten and pooped out by a jello slug. Turns out Tendi actually volunteered them for all of this, and their bad mood and her own experience with anal in a way few ever have has destroyed her morale. Bad news when you're holding the angry cube. It turns her into a scorpion, and while his new friends try to fall back on their upper deck attitude, Boimler goes for trying to actually help. It costs him his dignity, but it averts the crisis and turns Tendi back to normal. As for the spy, he survived his time in space. He apparently mistook the airlock for the bathroom, so he gets sent down, where they then gloat to Captain Janeway that they outsmarted her. Boimler leaves the clique, though the way Ransom takes a moment to compliment his quick thinking has most of them thinking that his way might be the right way after all. Except for the team leader, who's sticking with his path to glory.
Go clean up Airlock 17! Packlid did something unspeakable in there.
Yes, sir.
The Spy Humongous gets a score of 8 out of 10, the high watermark for this season in my opinion. I'm a sucker for comedy that paradoxically uses stupid characters in clever ways. Every one of its plots were fun. There was progress on the story arc. The minerals taken in episode 2 are being used inside of a bomb to be detonated against Earth. And there's a cleverness to its method. Even as the clique is insisting on their path towards the upper decks through arrogance, the actual senior officers are all shown in embarrassing situations and still muddling through, which is exactly how Boimler handled the crisis, showing why he's the one most ready to climb the ladder. Next up is Where Pleasant Fountains Lie.
You're too late! My royal guards are trained from birth to skip foreplay.
We kick off with the downfall of an evil computer, Agamas, which intersects with Boimler's mission with Ransom. They're going to be shooting giant centipedes, and despite being genre-savvy to a fault, no one seems to realize that Boimler would be a red-shirted ensign going to a place where someone will likely die in order to prove the situation is serious. I say would be because he gets reassigned to take Agamus back to Earth with Mariner, which results in a crash landing on an uninhabited planet. There's an anomaly responsible for this, so there are crashed ships all over the place. Two things are broken: Mariner's arm and the replicator. It can only make black licorice now. That's a problem because a local creature eats all their emergency rations, so they need to try to find food now, all while Agamus is trying to manipulate Boimler. They find fruit, but it tastes awful, made worse by Agamus' lies about being able to fix their replicator. But the truth is worse. It shows that the reason Boimler was reassigned was that Mariner told Ransom he wasn't ready for this job. And what's worse, she still insists that he isn't ready for any major duties yet. Agamus says there's a ship they can use, clearly a trick, but Boimler wants to follow it. Mariner refuses until her pushing drives him to physically attack her and then phaser her into unconsciousness. Well, this is going to take some power, so Agamus gives access to its own battery in order to do it. But then once that happens, it announces that it's tricked Boimler and is going to unleash evil. Except Boimler reverse Uno'd Agamus, using its power to instead send a distress signal, so they get rescued. In the B-plot, Billup's background becomes important because his mother is called up. She's a queen on a planet with dragons and so is permanently a Renaissance festival. The queen is obsessed with getting Billups laid because once he loses his virginity, he will become king. But they're in need of help. The ship's broken and their cosplayers can't fix it. He and Rutherford eventually do fix it, only when Billups returns to report to Captain Freeman, there's an explosion and the queen is killed, along with Rutherford. Billups has no choice but to accept his destiny and shag two of the guards. Tendi feels guilty over this because Rutherford wasn't keen on going, but she pushed him to get outside his comfort zone. Her tenacity reveals that his implants are still online because he's still alive, and so is the queen. Hearing the evil plan of tricking Billups into becoming king, Rutherford instead rushes over to cockblock him and save the day. Where Pleasant Fountains Lie gets a score of 6 out of 10. The episode is the other shoe dropping on the Mariner-Boimler dynamic. Her interference and words all show someone rationalizing the fact she doesn't want Boimler to get promoted and leave her behind again. So she's prepared to sabotage him and undermine his confidence. Subconsciously, this isn't the last time that Mariner is going to act like her personal hang-ups are actually other people's failures. Agamus is played by the great Jeffrey Combs, so as you can imagine, Agamus is a wonderful presence, even though we know it's evil and can't be trusted. As for Billup's plot, it's no surprise that with entire Scottish planets out there, we would find a planet of dragons, which is the perfect excuse in order to LARP forever. Boimler's capabilities are going to be again put to the test in Excretus.
Medical ethics. Chief Medical Officer, your mission. Navigate a paralyzed Klingon's request for an honorable death.
Oh, okay.
You must help me kill myself. I broke my back picking up a peanut.
The episode opens with the lower deckers working together on a repair job, only for the Cerritos to take off and leave them behind. They get rescued during the titles, but during the recovery is the airing of grievances. This is a pretty unacceptable screw-up. But Mariner didn't actually sign out the magnetic boots, but it's not like they weren't just obeying a superior's orders to go do that job. Well, this Discord is the perfect time for them all to participate in some drills run by Yem. These are simulating actual things that happen to real crews. And what's more, the top and the bottom are switching roles. Upper deckers facing lower deck problems and vice versa. Mariner goes shockingly bad, first getting the mirror universe encounter and having these grand ambitions about bringing down the Terran Empire, but she can't even complete the basic job of getting back home. She also gets the Wild West encounter, trampled by her own horse, and Naked Time, voluntarily blasted out the airlock. Tendi is unable to kill a Klingon patient, Rutherford can't heroically sacrifice himself because the door handle is too hot, and Boimler is sent against the Borg, which ends in success. In fact, Boimler begins tackling this thing so that, appropriately, he will achieve perfection. Even the senior officers fail. Without context and stuck with crates that don't want to stack, it's just impossible. Finally, the escape from space dock in Star Trek III comes up, which between Mariner and Captain Freeman's drama ends so badly they do not even rise to the level of failure. The two are forced to admit, per the TV switcheroo trope, that the other has a harder job than it looks. They think that's what this whole thing was about, bringing the crew together. Except, no. Yem needs the Cerritos to fail, or else the drill program will be cancelled as superfluous. But what she didn't count on was Boimler's OCD. So long as the tests are still going on, the result can't be submitted. So he's ordered to keep it going, even though he's already got a perfect score. While he does that, the Cerritos is then taken through one harrowing experience after the next, until Yem gives in and agrees to give them all passing grades. Boimler winds up getting assimilated, but at least it was for a good cause. Excretus gets a score of 5 out of 10. Remember, that just means this is a good example of a typical Lower Decks episode. Excretus has a double meaning, as obviously in English it means poop, but in Latin it means to be separated. Despite how things ended, Boimler demonstrated just how wrong Mariner had been. Not only can he pass a rigged test, he can do so with a multitude of different skills. What's more, Mariner repeatedly failing helps with the recontextualizing, that her abilities are legitimate, though not to the degree previously asserted, but that her self-assurance is not objective truth, but a personal filter for viewing reality and adjusting it for how she wishes to perceive it. This episode is silly fun, but still fun, getting a chance to see how the other half lives. Which actually leads perfectly into Episode 9, Wedge Dudge. I make no claims on being fluent in pronouncing Klingon.
You are a true Klingon. You may be smaller and weaker and slower and smaller than my other officers, but you have a warrior spirit.
The Cerritos is having a warp day. It's going to take most of the day at warp to get to their destination, so everyone's getting some time off. Boimler was hoping to spend it with his friends, but they're all teamed up with a bridge buddy. Mariner with her mom, Tendi with Dr. T'Ana, and Rutherford with Shax and Billups. This makes Boimler wish for the simplicity of a Klingon ship. Well, doodly doodly doodly, we're on a Klingon ship. We meet up with Garek. That's not the guy who got kicked out of the hammock, but because of conflicting information on his name, I chose to call him Garek anyway. That went over much better than Cerritos did. His real name is Mach, the Klingon Boimler, who knows the first officer is plotting against the captain, and today could be the day that he is able to work his way up the ranks. He slips up and uses the word logical, leading to mockery, punches, and references to Vulcans. Which brings us doodly 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 to a Vulcan ship, and a lower decker there named T'Lyn. She's the Mariner Vulcan. She's neglected her duty of monitoring non-essential systems in order to pursue a project that improves ship functions. So while she is engaged in defiant pursuit of ends without regards for means, Mach is brown-nosing his way into the captain's orbit. During this, Boimler has tried butting in first with Rutherford, pissing off Shax when he brings up arts and crafts on Bajor during pottery class, then interfering with Tendi rock climbing with Dr. T'Ana, only to plummet when his rocket boots malfunction. He tries Mariner and Freeman, but they're arguing worse than usual, so he finally winds up with Ransom in a turbolift, where he stumbles into claiming that he's from Hawaii. While he prepares to go to a luau, T'Lyn defies orders on meditation and mess on another project, and Mach decides to talk to the captain about how much he agrees that the Empire doesn't terrorize people as much as it used to. He is indeed raised to the captain's side, and just in time for when the Packlids call up, asking for presents. He's been arming the Packlids to destabilize the Federation, see, including giving them that bomb, which they have tested out, and it works. Oh, it worked really great. At first, anyway, but then after they set it off, the bomb stopped working, so they need another one. Not just that, but Mach notes that the bomb would be noticed and draw on other ships. Thus enters the Cerritos. During the fight, Boimler confesses that he's not Hawaiian. The others all confess they're not either, including Ransom himself. However, the other three are all from moons, so Boimler gets rejected yet again. Drama happens as the Vulcan ship arrives and tries to protect the Cerritos, but it needs T'Lyn's modifications to survive. Muck challenges the captain over this dishonorable behavior and wins, getting his chair, his targ, and the authority to tell them to get out of here. Despite victory, T'Lyn gets banished to Starfleet for her out-of-control behavior. Wedge Dudge gets a score of 7 out of 10. These little stories are great, introducing some new characters to the show, giving a few light character moments, and generally taking a direction that the Orville eventually went. Take the jokes that naturally come rather than forcing them. Naturally funny, naturally fun. Well, that just leaves the season finale, its first contact.
What if someone asks why he has it?
We programmed that in. He'll think it was elective.
We begin in space dock with the Cerritos and the Archimedes under the command of Captain Sonia Gomez, the original lower decker. While she and Freeman are discussing the latter's promotion to a better ship, Mariner is hiding nearby because she has contraband. So she goes to complain to the other lower deckers about this development. Well, nobody is with her on thinking that this is bad, so she tells the senior officers, who all are pissed off at being kept out of the loop. After trying to calm them down, Captain Freeman finally tosses them out so she can fight with Mariner, who thinks what her mom is doing is, quote, super messed up. Things take a turn, though, with the plot. The Archimedes is supposed to perform a first contact, but a blast from the star hits some planetoid and purple lightning flies off it. Well, it would take a scientist to explain it. The Archimedes thus loses all power and is left to drift straight into that civilized planet. In the B-plot, Rutherford has these pop-ups because he's been backing up memories of Tendi so he doesn't forget her again, especially because Dr. T'Ana is getting rid of her. During her final tour of the ship, they wind up in the captain's yacht, overhear the fight between Mariner and her mother, and Rutherford realizes how they can fly to the rescue, remove all the hull plating, and coast through unpowered. However, there's one panel that just won't come free. It has to be done from the inside, and that means going through cetacean ops, where horny beluga whales stand by to assist. Except this is a job that requires hands, so Boimler is going to do it. Mariner wanted to, but they all force her to admit that she's being a jerk to her mother because she doesn't want her to leave and is once again rationalizing why what she wants is what's best for everybody. Boimler pulls the panel, but drowns on the way back, and Tendi has to revive him. Well, the plan works. They save the Archimedes, and Captain Freeman gets to finally do the first contact. But she's so happy about how this all worked out, she says she's turning down the promotion in order to stay here. As for Tendi, Dr. T'Ana is only throwing her out of medicine because Tendi is better suited for a science officer role. But the cliffhanger arrives. Captain Freeman is placed under arrest for bombing Pakled Planet. To be continued. First Contact gets a score of 6 out of 10. The Cerritos gets to play hero, and they deserve it. This is an episode that shows you don't need to be live action to have great drama. The story really has the crew come to life. The second half of the season is far and away stronger than the first half, with great character dynamics, great wins for our lower deckers, and further developing the Pakled storyline. The culmination of that is actually the other half of the cliffhanger, Grounded, which we'll be taking a look at this Saturday.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord! Wait a minute! You just beat Captain Janeway!